There we go. Got us on here on the screen. Welcome, wake up, everybody. Welcome on in to Wake Up Legendary. My name is Ryan. I will be your host today. No, I'm just kidding. I'll be your co-host. I got an incredible guest coming in today. I think you already know who it is because I say the same thing every day. I got to come up with something a little more creative. I'm slacking in that department. It's early morning for me, though. I've actually been up since like 5 a.m., so it's really early for me today. So might need to take a little nap once we get out of here, but don't tell Dave. Anyway, speaking of Dave, come on in, buddy. Welcome on in. How you doing? How was your weekend? Hope everybody's well.
I am fantastic, brother. I am had a great weekend. Living life, living it to the fullest. We're going to talk about something that's a favorite topic of mine this morning, which is how to think like a rich person. Right? Wow, that's kind of oof. Wow, is that awesome? Is that icky? Is that allowed? Even is that okay? I don't know. What if I'm not rich? Can I think like a rich person? Is that some sort of a imposter syndrome issue type thing? Am I faking it till I make it? Well, the answer is going to be revealed today, and it may be one of the most important episodes that you listen to. Why do you think this topic's important, brother?
Because there's a way to do it right and a way to do it wrong. And if you don't start thinking like a rich person before you are, you'll never be one, in my opinion. There was some habits for me that once I changed them and just thought process and just regular practices in my life that weren't even hard to do. But once I learned them and started doing them, things changed. I actually got happier by spending less money and I felt more fulfilled. I had better goals and I actually started to see like real major progress from doing it. So and it wasn't because I came into money. It was because I just started changing the way I managed my money and the way I thought about it and the way I treat my relationship with it, essentially.
Yeah, for sure. And I talk about this with the people, the coaching clients that I'm talking to on a daily basis, and I try to ring and sing this sound throughout the mountains and the valleys of our industry, and I have for 15 years. That if you want to come in and go from employee mindset to entrepreneur, or from a sort of a regular factory worker mindset, which is kind of what we've all been trained to think, how we've been trained to think, and you want to sort of take your external world to the next level and start attracting people. They want to know that they're working with somebody that has a sense of where they're going and what they're doing. And one thing that you'll notice a pattern between people who are wealthy is that they're decisive. They know what they want. They make decisions fast. They know where they're going. And I only know this because I think of myself now as one, but I wasn't. I wasn't for the majority of my life. And that doesn't mean that if you have a job, that's wrong. I know a lot of people who have entrepreneurial side hustles or developing skills and also have jobs. They work for companies. I know people, at least on our team, who have intrapreneurial skills, which means they're entrepreneurial, but they're working with other entrepreneurs inside of a team. And that's what I consider what we have here at Legendary. It's not a traditional setup, and you may be in a traditional setup, and that's okay. You can still think like a rich person, even in a traditional setup. And so let's share the screen here. I'm going to bust this PDF download giveaway that we have for you all today. We will be dropping it for you here a little bit later throughout the episode. But let's start right in the beginning. Start right in the beginning of Genesis here. The harsh truth about why you're broke. If your bank account isn't where you want it to be, it's not because you don't make enough money. It's because of how you prioritize your money and your time. Most people unknowingly self-sabotage their financial future by spending on temporary pleasures instead of long-term growth, prioritizing comfort and entertainment over building skills and income, saying, this is going to be big, saying I can't afford it, while wasting their money on things that don't matter, wasting hours daily on distractions instead of working towards financial goals. You're not broke. You're just spending your time and your money on the wrong things. The rich and the poor both spend money. The difference is what they buy and how they spend their time. So pick one of these out of the four things that I mentioned, Ryan, and what comes out to you as something that you can relate to and that you had to change.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom one there was the biggest one for me. Was for the longest time was just wasting hours daily on distractions, and I did this in so many different ways as I was, becoming an adult human, right, growing up, so to speak, right. I did this in so many ways, and one thing that changed it, I heard this. This was from, I don't remember the guy's name, but it was an old enough clip. It was in black and white. And it was in square format, like old TV. You know what I mean? Like the big tube with the big back on it. And maybe you've probably heard this, and maybe you'll know who it was. But basically, the guy started off by saying, "Do you know how much you paid for your television? Do you know how much your TV was?" And the answer was like $450, $400, whatever. And the guy says, "No, you didn't look at the price tag, right? That TV is really costing you, right? $10,000, $12,000, $15,000, $20,000 a year in the hours you're spending sitting in front of it." Not in the price tag, not what it costs to own the TV, but what it's costing you to spend all that time just sitting in front of it when you could be focused on things that are going to promote long-term growth and promote, building wealth and making more money and putting hours into things like starting a business. That was a major, mental shift, right in that. If I could recall, one moment, that was a moment where I saw that and I'm like, holy crap. I knew that was going to stick with me as soon as I saw it. And it was like a instant, all of a sudden I couldn't live my life the same way, right? I'd sit in front of the TV, or I'd sit in front of a video game, or I'd sit in front of whatever I was going to do to waste time. Already up, leading up to that, I had already wanted to start a business. I had things I wanted to do, things, I was still an employee at this point. And hearing that completely shifted the way that I approached, the way I spent my free time, right? And the way I spent, even my pleasure time and things that I was doing. There was a lot of things I was doing with that time that was not only not allowing me to make progress, but it was slowing it down. It was moving me backwards. It was making me dumber, I think, in a lot of ways. And what I'm referring to is going out to bars and drinking all the time, using drugs, chasing women around for hours and hours and hours, and just all these things I was doing that most young men do, I think. Maybe that's not necessarily the drugs thing, but all the other stuff, I've started to look at all that and I'm like, man, what a big waste of time. Here I am. What an idiot I am sitting here. I got all these goals and I talk to myself like I'm going to be this big shot. And here I am wasting all my time doing this crap. And that's maybe not be the same situation for most of you here watching right now today. But for me, that was a very real situation at that time. And that was the behavior that immediately I knew had to stop, right, in the back of my mind. But once I heard that, and then once I started to really think about it every single day, amongst many other things around this topic, that's when I started to make a change. And that's when I started to see a difference. That's when I started not only paying closer attention to my money, but also just what I was doing and was it going to move me in the direction I wanted to go.
Yeah. I love all those, such honesty. And thank you for those of you who are being honest, or just who are willing to be honest on this journey with us, because to change, you got to first be honest. And that's one of the things that we don't want these shows. These aren't preachy, teachy. We're looking down on you, or we're trying to teach you something that we've already mastered. This is a daily struggle, especially when you come from, a lower to middle class family, which, most of us did. And it's okay if you came from a wealthy family too. It doesn't particularly mean that you don't have mindset shifts that you need to make. You may everybody has their own unique set of limiting beliefs that they have to kind of overcome, and broke habits, right? For me, a lot of it was the language, saying I can't afford it while wasting money on things that didn't matter. I had to really change my language. I had to first, I'm not a big, and I never have been, I never will be a big proponent of, you're going to change the way that you think by listening to books or audiobooks or reading books or just listening to videos. You're going to have to actually act yourself into a new way of thinking. And the way that I did that in terms of mindset around money was I became really careful about the language that I use. And I believe that language is everything. Words are everything. They're the most powerful thing that you have next to actions. And they are an action, because a thought is not an action. A word, there's actual effort that you spend to say the things that you say on a daily basis. And one of the things that I really invite, challenge everybody to do is to get more intentional with their language, get more intentional with how much you're saying, how much you're sharing. Pay special attention to the anxiety that you have and how you may drone on or say things that end up making you feel bad about yourself because you can't sit with other people in silence. You feel like you always need to be talking. And so you end up oversharing, or you end up saying things that you don't mean, or you end up saying things that make you feel bad, particularly to unsafe people or people who you should not be sharing that shit with. If you are sharing things that are deep, vulnerable pieces, then make sure that you're sharing them with somebody who's equally going to share other vulnerable stuff with you so you can see them and then you can grow together. It's really important that if you're going to shift your mindset to go from a poor to a rich mindset, that you have other people around you who are in that same mindset. Maybe not in the wealth, I'm already rich, but I want to grow towards that. There is no way that you can grow in an environment that is not growing. Plants can't do it. But the earth, I mean, there's nothing in this world that flourishes in a land. Look at Mars. We just had images that came from Mars, and it's like there's nothing growing there. There's nothing growing there, people. If we go there, it's going to be inside of containers. On Earth, stuff grows, but guess what? There's places on Earth that it doesn't too. And that may be in the living room of your best friend. That may be at the dinner dates with the group of friends that you keep hanging out with that you know you need to wean yourself off of. That may be with family members that you spend a lot of time with that are sort of infecting you with their poverty mindset. Now, I don't mean to be condescending. I just mean that if you want to develop a rich mindset that leads to actual wealth, you're going to have to be extreme. You're going to have to be extreme. You're going to have to do things that you're going to have. For me, it's like I'm on a mission of no new friends. No new friends. You ever heard that song? It's like a rap song that DJ Khaled came up. No new friends, no new friends, no new friends. I don't need new friends right now. I need a new attitude. I need new thinking. I need to think bigger. I need to surround myself with people who, if I tell them about my deepest, darkest dreams, they're like, let's do it. Awesome. They're not going to start questioning. They're not going to start doubting. They're not going to start criticizing. And if they are, it's my responsibility to not share that around those people, because the things that we say can be easily pushed back in by influential people around us who don't feel the same way, or who our dreams threaten them and remind them of the things they didn't pursue, right? We can't be around people who are thinking small if we want to think big, okay? The other ones as well, prioritizing comfort and entertainment. I mean, wasting hours daily. Yeah, who hasn't? Who doesn't? It's not like every single day I'm a robot or a machine who never wastes time on stuff, but I try to be intentional. When I get up in the morning, I try to sit down at my computer first. I'm fresh. Have a cup of coffee and sit down and work. Like all this morning routine BS that's become popularized over the last few years. Just wake up and go to work. That's what you did in your job that makes the company that you work for successful. So that's what you should do. If you have your own business and you say you have a job, get up earlier, stay up later, whatever you got to do. But sit down and just go sit in front of the computer. Also, know when your expiration date is on the computer. Know when this is big for me. It's not just about sitting there for endless amounts of hours. It's also about knowing when my time has expired and I'm now in a completely non-productive mode. I don't know about you, but if I'm in that mode where I'm done, if I'm toast, the steak is fully cooked, I don't get anything done. I'm just scrolling, I'm staring, dude. You know what I mean? When you're in that other zone, that expiration zone.
Absolutely. I time out completely. I'll get to the point where, if I work myself too far, I'll get to the point where I'm just like a zombie. Like I could be looking at my wife and she could be talking to me and I'll be like, I don't know what the hell you just said, but you'll have to tell me again later because I can't process it right now. Like, I don't know if you've ever gotten like that, but like, yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a time to walk away for sure. There's a time to get up but I think that can happen. That can actually become a pattern where you're only trying to get stuff done when you're in those moments because you feel guilty that you didn't do it the rest of the time you had.
Totally.
So you're getting yourself burnt out on lots of other stuff or worrying about stuff or being stressed about stuff when really you should just turn it all off and use your best hours on yourself. Yeah. And I've kind of almost designed my whole schedule to kind of work that way, to where I know that the most important shit is going to get done when I'm the most useful. And if I can do things in other times or I've got the discipline to sit down and just be like, I got to get this done. But at the same time, I know the end product's not going to be as good as it could be. So I just focus on easier tasks when I get in that zone.
Yeah. So the wealthy by skills education, the broke by entertainment and status. I mean, the wealthy by business and investments, the broke by expensive cars and clothes. You see people who are walking around in like full-blown Gucci outfits and all this kind of stuff. And you might even come to an event, right, and see me in some designer. But please understand that I bought that shit in the last 5 years. That was not stuff that I bought in the first 10 years of my business. You know what I mean? You might see me with a stupid watch that costs a house, but I didn't buy that. I didn't buy that in the first 5 years of my career, not even in the first 10 years of my career, right? These are things that I've bought as I've had investments that are growing, as I've had assets that are growing. That's after I've paid off my house. That's after I've got money in stocks that are growing. So let's be more specific. What are some business investments? What are some assets that I can begin to grow that can help me to feel like I'm starting to make some progress with the money that I'm making? Well, for me, I started buying gold, right? And gold was something that I could put my money and get it out of my bank account where I was going to spend it and put it into a physical asset that over since I've started buying gold, which was 15 years ago, has made me an incredible amount of money, right? Because it's just grown so much in value. Also investing in the stock market, but not just any stock, right? Not just randomly throwing spaghetti at the wall. I learned the basics of how the stock market works. And I learned that I could either play day trading games and likely lose all my money, because that's not what that's not my focus. Is my cash cow business. And I want to take the cash from that cash cow business and I want to pay off my house. I want to buy investments like stocks and real estate and gold and occasionally watches, right? But ultimately, I want my focus to stay on my cash cow business, because that's what is pumping. That's what's going to pump off the cash. That's going to help me to actually build my wealth. Now, there's a difference between weekly riches and real wealth. And the difference to me is that you end up having something to show for it, and you end up having something that's actually growing and increasing in value over time without you having to do anything with it. And that's why the myth of passive income is BS, because there is no business that's passive. The only thing that's passive is investments, and specifically to me, gold and stocks. Real estate is not a passive investment. Get clear about that. Understand that if you're going to take your money from your cash cow business and you think you're going to get into real estate and it's going to be passive, you've now got 2 active businesses that are going to be sucking your time. And so for me, it's been strategic to put all of my effort and do everything that I can to have all of my focus and energy put into my cash cow business, so I can then take that money, pay off my house. That's been something that, now some people don't believe in that. For me, it's important. I want to pay off my house. That's just been something that's been a priority for me. In case something ever happens, I have somewhere to live. And then for me, again, not day trading, but investing into index funds. Things like, for example, VOO, the Vanguard Index Fund, that is basically a breadbasket of all the stocks in the S&P 500, because the S&P 500 has grown on average 10% over the past 100 years. And I know that if I put my hard-earned money in that, it's probably the smartest place I could put it. And guess what? If the stock market crashes, we're all screwed. Okay. It's not just you. There's so many people who are invested in that not happening, particularly the people who own the businesses that you're investing in by buying a portion of their stock. And so that one single move, investing in something like VOO or the other most popular S&P 500 index fund is SPY. That's it's the same exact thing. It's just a different company. Do some research, friends. Type into YouTube the difference between an index fund and regular stock investing, and you'll learn what John Vanguard invented 50 or 60 years ago or whatever, in terms of the index fund as the simplest or simpler way for the average bear to start investing, the same exact way that people like Warren Buffett and everybody else does. And as a matter of fact, Warren Buffett says when he passes, he wants the money that he believes his wife's going to live longer than he does, put into a simple index fund for. And as a matter of fact, Warren Buffett, you can actually look at the stocks he owns. It's not a constant day trading thing. You know, by the way, folks, Warren Buffett made the majority, 99% of his wealth after the age of 50. So if you think it's too late to start getting into something like that, thinking like what we're talking about and taking your money and investing it to build real wealth, you're crazy. By the way, this is not financial advice. Go absolutely consult with all the experts and professionals. This is just what I've done. And lo and behold, I've actually had more wealth than the investment people that I've worked with. So I've actually taken my money back out of having them manage it to manage it myself. Why would I have somebody manage it who I actually have more wealth than, right? So I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm just saying that this is what I've done. And over the past 15 years, 16 years of doing this, I have something to show for it. And I think that's also wealth. So often we put decades into things and don't have something to show for it. So what's the hit? Last thing I'll say on this piece is, take a portion. At least I did. I took a portion no matter what I was making. And I bank with Bank of America and have a connected account with Merrill Edge. And when I log in, I can see everything right there on one screen. I don't care if it's $50. I don't care if it's 10, 100, 10,000, 100,000 out of every single time I get paid. And I put for me, it's usually once a month. So it's not every, right? It's about once a month. I take whatever I can set aside to invest in my investments, because I know if I leave that money in the bank account, that bank account is not a holding. That is a in and out. That's a subway. That's a train station, baby. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's not a place. That's not a parking lot. That's a train station. And understand the difference between the financial tools that you have, your checking account and even your savings account. Those are train stations, man. You got to have something that's a parking lot, right? Gold is a parking lot. I feel like watches, even you buy a watch that has a tendency to hold its value so you can wear a little bit of your wealth. That tends to be a little bit more of a parking lot. You have something that I actually think buying stocks is less of a parking lot, because and at the beginning, it may be smart for you to have somebody who's an additional level or barrier of safety. So you don't go in there and sell those stocks when, for example, the stock market has a little bit of volatility like it has over the past couple of weeks, right? But it needs to be a parking lot. When you move that money over there, that's gone. That's done. You're not dipping your hand back into that cookie jar.
Yeah. One of the things you've said that completely changed the way I approach this, I learned this from you. I think probably one of our first masterminds was that I was one of those guys to get distracted by the crypto shit coins. And I'm going to put as much money as I can into this thing that's going to 1000X and it's going to go to the moon and all this other crap. And one of the things you had said was that your business is your risk, right? You take all of your risk in your business where you make your money. Once you make the money, you want to have it going somewhere where it's going to be safe, where it's going to be, you're not looking for 100X, 1000X, right? If I can stick it in like the stock market and make 10% on it or even 5% on it, I know my money's growing and I know it's not going down. And I know if I do that over the long term, right? Not financial advice. I don't know this, but it's a safe bet that I'm not going to wind up broke with nothing. Unlike if I were to buy, Hawk Tua coin and then it gets gassed up to the moon and then I buy more and then it just tanks, right? So that was a huge thing. And at that time, when I had initially learned that from you, one realization I had was that my biggest thing keeping me stuck financially right now is my debt. Right. I still had debt and I was trying to do all this investing stuff and trying to put money in stocks and trying to find those big winners when in reality, I was paying 13%. I had interest working for me the wrong direction. Right. I had the high yield savings and I had the stock market and I had the stuff I was buying. But my debt was costing me more in interest by just servicing it every month. And I'm talking about credit cards. I'm talking about vehicle loans. I'm talking about all that. I had a line of credit, right? I talk about this sometimes. I had when I was like 21 and I got access to the bank and loans and they would approve me for stuff. I went ahead and I had this diesel truck and I spent like $100,000 in money I didn't have, debt with credit cards and loans to make it feed my ego. I had to have the fastest and loudest truck in town. And I did. I'll pride myself on that. I did. I could shut down a 4-lane highway with the smoke that would bellow out of the stacks on this Dodge diesel truck I had. And it was cool and it was loud and people would look at it. And that's what I wanted. I got what I paid for, but I was paying for that even years after I got rid of the truck. It was stupid. It was so dumb. Talk about looking back and having a regret. So once I kind of started to come around to this, I was like, this is my biggest, liability. This is costing me money every single month. Here I am trying to get lucky. For years, it hasn't worked. And I'm paying all this money on these minimum payments. And on some of them, the balances weren't even going down. When I do the math, I don't know if anybody knows what an amortization schedule is, but if you don't, go research that because it's important to know. I was looking at some of these and I was making multi-$100 payments every month. And my principal was going down by less than $100. The rest was going up just straight to interest. I mean, it was disgusting. It's sickening, make you sick to your stomach. So what I started doing was I stopped all investing, right, for that period of time. And I got the debt under control. Right now, the only debt that I have is my mortgage. And I feel good about that, right? I've got a very nice house, in my opinion, that me and my wife own. And we pay that mortgage with extra every single month. And, we have our usual expenses, but we have no other debt. We don't pay credit card payments every month. I have a lease on a truck. That's it. And when I turn that in, right, before I had this coming to God, we'll call it, on debt, is when I got that truck. The lease expires in November. I'm not going to have a car payment after that. Not that I can't afford it. I just don't want it. I don't want a payment. I'd rather drive a Camry that I paid cash for as often as I drive, right? I've had this thing 3 years. It's only got 12,000 miles on it. That's how often I drive. It goes to the grocery store and the gas station to get my boiled peanuts and my sweet tea. That's it. That's all it does. So I'm not even going to have that. And it's so freeing. One of the most freeing things in your life is knowing that you just made that last payment and how exciting it is to to be tracking that and to be looking at that, because I'm a math nerd guy, so I've got this stuff on spreadsheets, so you don't have to go that crazy, but just know what you got to pay, right? And knowing that, man, at this, if I do this for another 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, I'm going to be out of debt. And that feels so good knowing that. And then also when it happens, and then having done that, that's when my wheels stopped spinning in place. I was just digging a hole in the ground the whole time. Money was going who knows where, making a bunch of other people rich, mostly banks, and their furniture is nicer than mine, right? And now that I've got that taken care of, I can pay extra on my mortgage, right? Which I'd be paying well over $1 million for this house if I just made the minimum payments. Now I'm going to pay less than $1 million by my math, and well under $1 million, actually a lot under $1 million. And now I'm actually seeing my investment portfolios grow. So that's when I started to see progress. So if you're somebody in here with a lot of debt, look at what you have to do to get rid of that, because that's a big thing that's going to keep you stuck for a long time if you don't do something with it. It's also something that's just, it makes me so angry. It makes me so, this is a personal opinion of mine, it makes me so angry that they don't teach these kids how this stuff works. I had my brother down for vacation about a week ago. We were talking about his student loans. He thought that 13% interest meant 13% of the payment he makes every month went towards interest.
Yeah.
He thought that $200 payment or whatever it was he was making, only 13%, it's only $26 goes to the interest. What the hell are you talking about, bro? They don't even know how this stuff works. And it's terrifying. And then once I explained it and taught it to him, he's like, oh, wow, this hole just got a lot deeper. I says, yeah, it did. It did. It's been deep. You just learned about how deep it was.
Let me show you all watching exactly what investments and kind of how compounding interest actually works. Now, this is just I just type into Google investment calculator, and the top choice is usually always calculator.net. That's where I'm at right now. Calculator.net/investment calculator.html. Let me just give you guys this link. I want to make sure that this will go. Okay, cool. So I'll drop this into the chat. Now watch, don't go messing around with it quite yet, but there's the link. So if you look at this, you can kind of see what, how this works. And you can punch in different numbers. Like say right now, you've got $1,000 that you can invest into something with. Okay. After 10 years, with a return rate of 10% that compounds annually, with an additional contribution of $100 per month, you, after 10 years, can have $22,000. Now, the contributions that you're going to make to that over the 10 years are $12,000, but you're going to also make $9,580.13. So you're literally making nearly as much as you contributed at a return rate of only 10% annually, friends, which is the average. And I can show you this. Average S&P 500 growth over 100 years. Okay, let me share this tab. Okay, according to most data sources, the average annual growth of the S&P 500 over 100 years is around 10% when including dividends, with an inflation-adjusted average closer to 7%. Okay, the S&P 500, I believe, in 2024 grew over 20%. So it all depends on kind of what years you're getting in, but 7 to 10% over the past 100 years. So you can see that you're earning literally almost as much interest as you paid or as you contributed to the investment portfolio. And this is the same sort of compounding interest that works against you if you have credit cards, high interest rates on car loans, things of this nature. Now, some of you are thinking, wow, this can get pretty crazy, right? So what if I have 20,000 that I can put into something right now over 10 years? Screw it. Maybe I've got 15 years, a return rate. Let's say I get 9%, okay, with an additional contribution of, let's say I stretch a little bit and go $150 a month. Well, now I've got an ending balance of $127,000, a starting amount, okay, of, look at this. I started with 20,000. I only contributed 27,000. The interest that I made on that over 15 years is $80,000. Look at this pie chart right here. Look at how that breaks that down. The red part is the interest. That Warren Buffett said that interest, compounding interest, is it should be the eighth wonder of the world. It's so absolutely unbelievable. And sometimes you don't really realize like how much compounding interest may be working against you until you start to see something like this where you understand how it can work for you. Is this mind-blowing stuff, bro?
It's incredible. It's crazy. And I love doing this. I love going in and throwing in. It just gets me so excited when I start looking at these kinds of things. Not that I'm expecting it as like a guaranteed outcome, but because it's just what's possible, what could happen, especially working with the average numbers and realistic numbers for me, and seeing what it actually could become is the most motivating thing in the world. One of the things I got majorly wrong, and I think a lot of people get it wrong, is there's this concept of, I want to touch on the concept of a spread, right? So some people think, well, I'll keep the debt because I only have 5% interest, but I'm going to make 10% over here. What I failed to realize is that, if you have debt on a car and it's like $60,000, and maybe you're making 10% on what you're investing in, but you only got $5,000 over there, you're still paying way more in interest on the other side than what you're going to make back, because your investment is so much smaller than your debt liability. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that was part of what kept me stuck for so long, was just also not even realizing that here I thought I was in great shape because, man, I got this low interest rate on this car loan, or I got this, whatever. And I'm investing over here, but meanwhile, I only had, less than 10 grand that I was investing with. So my debt balance at one point over 100 grand with everything averaged together, combined together, added in, which is terrifying considering there was no house in there at the time. Absolutely terrifying. Talk about losing sleep. And then here I was with my Robinhood account trying to put in a little bit every single month, and I was making, whatever I was making. And at the time, I wasn't even making that because I was trying the whole day trading thing. So that was all just stupid to begin with. But even if you forget that part, right? Oh, if I can make 10% over here, I'm in good shape. I'm making a spread. Well, I'm only investing with $5,000 or whatever it was. And then here I am paying interest on debt over 100. So right. That's a important thing I wanted to throw, a big realization for me. But this stuff is so exciting.
Paying off debt, right? I mean, that's the hit. That's the punchline, is pay off debt, right? Like instead of if you're in tons of debt or have any debt at all, before you start getting into thinking that you're going to offset your debt with investments, you're not. Pay the debt off, right? Do one thing at a time. Pay the debt off. And that's not to say that you can't, if you have a solid plan to pay the debt off, you can't be investing. But it's like, you'll really make a lot of progress if you get laser focused on one thing at a time, right? If you have debt, then pay the debt off, right? Pay that freaking debt off. Stop carrying that debt. Refinance. Figure out how to, use the financial tools that are available to you and me to be able to get rid of that debt or get that debt at a lower interest rate. So even as you're paying it off, you can pay less interest, defer payments, right? Whatever you can do to not give credit card companies, auto loan companies, even mortgage companies, mortgage banks, your money as a ridiculous fee for them to just hold, for you to just owe them money. It's ridiculous. I mean, you're not paying the additional fee. Honestly, compounding interest is the greatest invention of all time, and it's also the biggest scam of all time, right? Because if it's working against you, it's just literally, hey, Ryan, can I borrow $20? Yeah. And over the next 5 years, as you pay that back, you're going to pay me back $60. Who does it, right? But that's how they make money. You have to understand how these banks are the biggest, and also how insurance companies and colleges, they have these endowment funds. Insurance companies have these massive investment accounts to where when you're paying these premiums, they have cash balances of billions of dollars. That money is not just sitting there. It's one of the reasons why Warren Buffett loves the insurance business, is because until they have to make a big payout, that money is sitting in a massive investment account, owning something like, whether it be VOO or something that's not a volatile, maybe it's bonds, right? When bonds over the past couple of years have been pretty decent investments, paying out 5-ish% or so, or more, right? They're making money on that. They're making money. So when they have to pay out on an insurance claim, it's really coming out of the money that they've used and made from the money that was just sitting in these investment accounts. So learning how to use money. I'm not a big proponent of going out there. And I see these people on the internet who are, we'll get your business financed and all this kind of stuff. Look, I like businesses that, and I want to look everybody just right here. I want to be very clear about this. You do not need a ton of money to start a business, right? Or you shouldn't, especially if you're getting into a brand new business. Now, if you're buying coaching and education, that's fine, right? That's fine, right? That's something that hopefully is going to excel, that's going to speed up your growth. It's going to help you to make shortcuts. It's going to help you to avoid costly mistakes. But this is free game right here. All these people out here that are like, let's get your business financed. Let's get you all these different credit cards and loans and all this different kind of shit, lines of credit. Look, that's just accidents waiting to happen, man. That's just accidents waiting to happen. And, you have to be careful with that, right? Because at the end of the day, the reason why I've loved this business over the past 16 years is because minus the low to no cost tools that I've used and minus the courses or the investments into developing my own skills, which I think are some of the best investments I've made, I've loved this business model because it doesn't require me to take out a big bank loan to go buy a bunch of equipment. If I would have tried to get into the construction business at the very beginning, like I wanted to, like I hoped to, I would have started my business off without any coaching, without any mentorship. This is just with the equipment and $100,000 in debt, just from stocking one truck and one trailer. So one truck with a box and a trailer we did carpentry, bathroom, and kitchen remodels. We needed chop saws, circular saws, table saws, drills, all the hand tools. We needed extension cords. We did tile work. We needed a wet saw. All of these things, we're talking about a minimum of $100,000 to get all that equipment, right? Plus, I had no idea where to start. I had no mentorship, no guidance, nothing like that. That's just to get the damn hot dog stand on the side of the road and start selling. Right? Had no marketing knowledge, no sales experience, nothing like that, right? That was just to have a truck in my driveway and say, I'm in business. And that's really not even taking into consideration the contractor's licensing test and the studying that I have to do just for that test. That's not sales and marketing training. That's just a state licensing test that you have to fill out the right answers for. And so this business has allowed me to actually be in business at a very low to no cost, because what I'm doing is I'm only, if I start with affiliate marketing, starting out selling somebody else's product. So I don't have to invent, I don't have to stock, I don't have to ship, I don't have to manufacture anything. I'm selling digital products as an affiliate. And if I get into creating my own courses, coaching, or doing even virtual events, those are all still pretty much free. I mean, I'm paying for hosting. I might pay for an email autoresponder, but besides that, I'm advertising and marketing that for free on social media. And for the most part, it's my time, it's sweat equity that I'm using to get the business off the ground. It's not actual cash. And so be careful about these business strategists out there who want to put you in $100,000 worth of lines of credit and all this different kind of stuff, because they're going to make a buck off of that, off of selling that loan, off of brokering that credit card or whatever. The same way that we're going to make a buck, and we're in the education business, but that's obvious. I mean, sure, you guys can go and do this without education. I'm not saying you can't start affiliate marketing or launch your own course without education. You absolutely can. And I want to be crystal clear about that. This is not a motivation for me to say that's bad and you don't have to buy coaching. You don't have to buy courses. We're giving away free game right now, right? It's just that we sell this and we're in this business because we know that so many people who try to start need mentorship, need guidance, need education. And I think we all know that's true as well. This country, everything's built off of knowledge, right? Knowledge is the real skill development, is the real true wealth creation starting point. You can't do anything without new skills, right? That people told me when I got clean, your best thinking got you here, Dave. Because I was like, yeah, I'm too smart for this. I shouldn't be here. And I bet many of you think the same way. It's like, I'm smart. Why am I in this situation? It's okay. Your best thinking got you here. Own that, admit that, and realize that you're only taking up probably a small percentage of your brain power. You have a lot of space in your mental compartment to add new information, to develop new skills. You simply need to learn something new, to do something new. And when you do, the world can open up to you, right? And that's at least my take on things and my take on business, especially for newbies. And my hope is today that this has been extraordinarily valuable for you all. If I would have heard something like this back 15 years ago, I think I would have been more wealthy. And if I would have learned it earlier in my life, I probably wouldn't have spent as much time avoiding becoming an adult. Because when I was young, I thought becoming an adult was like a life sentence to a miserable, soul-sucking job that I was trying to avoid kind of getting into. I didn't want that responsibility. I didn't realize that I could sort of blaze my own path and I could make powerful decisions and powerful moves with my money, even if it was $100 at a time, that after a couple of years, I would have really had something to show for it, even if I was in a job, right? Because you can still do all of this stuff even with your current job, and then just put it on steroids with your own business. Final thoughts, brother?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's kind of the key thing is that a key point of discouragement when somebody gets started too, is just that they think that, oh, well, if it only gets me to $3,000 or only gets me to $4,000 or only gets me to $5,000 a month or whatever, that's going to be not enough. So now it's not worth it. Right. But now when you take and you look at the big picture, right? You look at, okay, maybe it does only make me $5,000 a month, but if it does that for 5 years, in addition to my income at my job, in addition to if you live in a 2-income household, in addition to can we budget and cut unnecessary stuff out, in addition to can we get rid of all the debt, and then you're putting that into a safer investments that are going to make you a more reliable or predictable return. Look at that 5-year picture. Right. Look at that 5-year period. And I think that's one of the things that made a key, everything for me is the key difference, but it's a big difference for me was instead of thinking in such short-term time frames, thinking more in those long-term time frames, and then being able to get excited about that. And one thing I think that made that easier was thinking on the short term for so long, trying to always have that quick win, trying to always have why do people buy lottery tickets? Because they're hoping their numbers are going to come up this week, and they'll buy that lottery ticket every single week for years and never win a dime, right? Or win very small things back. Never, whatever the statistic is, right? People aren't going to make back what they invested into lottery tickets. So you might as well just assume that that's a fact, right? You could buy these lottery tickets, but it's safe to say that you're just throwing money away. You're not going to win, right? So when I was always looking at these short-term timelines, it was easy to get discouraged. And it was easy to be like, well, what's the point? But then after spending years of trying to win in the short term, and then looking back on that and saying, I've been doing something long-term now that's been working pretty damn good. And if I just did this the whole time, imagine where I would be. Now it's so easy to get excited about something that's going to take place over the long term. When it comes to investing time and investing money, right? It's easier to put the effort into things, and it's also easier to put money into things. It's easier to put $100 into something, even though that doesn't make a monumental difference over the grand scheme of things right now. Over time, doing that $100 every month, doing that extra 2 hours every day, doing that extra, whatever it is, over the long term is really going to stack up big time. And you can see that when you kind of lay it out, almost make yourself a model, and just putting it on a napkin, right? Just kind of like, what's this going to do for me over 5 years if I just did that? The results from that are usually a lot greater than anything you're ever going to get in a short-term win, unless you get some kind of lucky. And lucky for me, just, it hasn't happened. I mean, I've tried all the different ways to get lucky. I've invested in the meme coins, and I've done the Coinbase this and the lottery tickets and all that. And, I'm feeling good today. I'm going to buy a scratch off. And then you lose the money you put in. There goes $30, right? I've had that happen a bunch of times. I haven't bought a lottery ticket in probably, I couldn't even tell you how long to throw a number out there, but it's been a long time. Right. So that's my 2 cents. I could go on, and I know you can as well. We could go on for hours and hours about this, but that's,
well, how this stuff is true, folks, is because we don't have an investment fund for you to invest in. We're not asking for your money to put it into our apartment complex investment or our hedge fund or whatever it is. It's just like, look, all there's tons of gimmicks out there, man. Just the basic boring stuff. It's sort of like, how do I eat healthy? You eat regular, organic, if you can, chicken, steak, pork, whatever. You eat basic protein. There's 3 food groups, man. It's proteins, it's fats, and it's carbs. Another thing they didn't teach us in school, right? We got the food pyramid as they brought out a tray of slop, right, from behind the cafeteria. Remember the lady just plop your slop down in your tray and act like a milk and a couple of pieces of bread is healthy. It's like there's when I learned the basic simplicity of just eating clean, that is, it's not a mystery. There's proteins, fats. Fats are your good fats, people. Remember the whole craze? I don't know. We were kids, but it was like, low fat. And there was this big fat kind of thing where everything was trying to, this doesn't have fat or low fat. And we still do it, but we don't see it as much anymore because people are starting to smarten up. It's like your basic avocados, your oils, your things of that nature. There's healthy fats within a lot of meats that you eat as well. And then your carbs. Your carbs are your other third kind of macro food group. It's healthy sweet potatoes, rices, things of this nature, basic stuff, fruits, veggies, just real food, not out of a box, right? Real food. You put a piece of chicken, you put some avocado or something, and then you have vegetable and a little bit of sweet potato right there. You've got protein, you've got fat, you've got carbs, and it's just real food. It's like we're all looking for the South Beach diet or this or that or the skinny this or that, and it's like it's just simpler than that. It's just, it doesn't need to be that complicated. And the same thing is true with building wealth. It's like I talk about these things that I've invested in, and I have looked at everything the same way that you were talking about. And it's just like there's about 3 or 4 basic things that are in my opinion, intelligent to invest in that build wealth, predictable wealth, not shitcoin, crypto, up and down. There's a lot of people who got in just a few months ago during the inauguration and are losing their ass right now, and sure, the market might have pumped up last night because Trump tweeted about having a reserve of Bitcoin and Ethereum, but that doesn't mean that that's going to continue to trend. I'm not going to say that I wouldn't take a small percentage of what I have and maybe mess around like that, but I'm going to invest into something like that, pretty much accepting the fact that I could or will probably lose it. The other things that we mentioned inside of this episode are things that historically over the past 100 years have been proven to just perform at a reasonable rate, significantly or pretty safe. And guess what? I don't sell any of them, so there's not a dog in the fight for me, right? So do your own research, consult with your financial planners and advisors and all the people who are certified to give you expert advice, right? And take this all with a grain of salt, and that it's our own basic experience. But in my opinion, it's pretty damn good experience. So with that being said, we'll see you all back here tomorrow for another episode of Wake Up Legendary. As always, thank you, my brother. It's always a pleasure and good to see you on a Monday morning. All of you, get out of here. Have a wonderful day. Stay legendary. Go into the comments there and I'll do it one more time. I'll drop the link into the comments for the PDF. Here you go. It's coming from Legendary Marketer right there in the comments, my friends. And we'll see you back here tomorrow for another episode. Peace.
Peace.